Why do the rich get richer, even during a recession? Newsflash, it's not luck. It's because they think and operate differently. In this video, we're going to break down the 3 different categories that people fall into financially and how you can shift from surviving to thriving and getting rich yourself. All of us fall into one of these 3 categories, which is the reactors, the climbers, and the creators. And the category that you fall into will determine whether you work for money or money works for you. First, let's start with reactors. Reactors don't plan, they react to everything, which is why they typically live paycheck to paycheck. They have a decent job, but they always find a way to have the money disappear faster than it comes in. And that's usually because they live and spend in the moment, primarily having to live and survive off of credit cards and loans. They borrow to consume, meaning they're paying high interest debt on things that don't build them any real wealth, such as clothing, accessories, and travel. And the worst part is they follow all the traditional financial advice, such as save money into a 401k for retirement. But the problem with that is their money is locked up and now they can't access it without penalty, which they often need to because they don't have an emergency fund saved. And by the time they do retire, any money that they have left is eaten up by taxes, inflation, and fees. Basically, they always find a way to have too much month left at the end of their money, and they're on this hamster wheel working so hard, spinning and spinning with no end in sight. If this sounds like you, don't worry, we've all been there at one point, and there is a way out. Just stick with me. Next, we have the climber, which this is where most Americans land and get stuck. Now, they're a little bit more disciplined when it comes to their money. They have a good job. They live below their means. They save, they invest, they plan for the future. They most likely have a house. They probably have a good credit score, and they're most likely max funding their 401k and IRA. So it sounds like they're doing better on paper, but the reality is they're still playing defense, and that's because they're trusting the old system, which says save your money in tax-deferred accounts, pray that the stock market goes up, retire when you turn 65, pay your taxes when you withdraw. But what they don't realize is they're still trapped. The money is locked up, exposed to stock market risk, they're paying unnecessary fees, and they're following a system that was never created with the intent to create real, true, long-lasting wealth. They are climbing this ladder, but the ladder's leaned up against the wrong wall. Now let's talk about the 3rd type of person, which is the creator. Now these are the wealthy. These are the individuals that truly thrive. They don't have a job, they create jobs. Creators don't earn money. They know how to leverage it to create their future because they understand how real wealth works. They don't just save. They position their wealth strategically, and they don't rely on banks because they've learned how to become their own banker. They don't borrow to consume, they borrow to create. And when they borrow at low interest rates, and then they leverage that money to put it somewhere to earn higher interest. They use strategies like real estate and max-funded insurance contracts to grow their wealth and keep it accessible to them tax-free through loans. Now, while most people work hard for money, creators make money work hard for them. They're not climbing the ladder. They're building the building. The ladder is leaned against. So how do you shift? How do you shift from a reactor to a creator? Well, it all starts with awareness. You've got to get serious about figuring out where you are at financially. I want to challenge you to sit down and take a look and see how much income do you have coming in versus going out every single month in basic expenses. Then it comes down to restructuring. You have to start repositioning your money into vehicles that give you more control, more growth, and more freedom. You've got to eliminate that high interest debt. You've got to reduce your tax liability, and you've got to stop parking money in places where it's slowly dying. And finally, you got to learn what the wealthy are really doing with their money. I would recommend start by reading some books. One of my favorites is Tax-Free Wealth by Tom Wheelwright, where he goes over some of the best tax hacks used by the world's wealthiest elites. I would also recommend reading Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki so you can learn how to leverage debt, good debt, in your favor. And I would also recommend reading How Rich People Think by Steve Siebel because remember, it's more mental than anything else. I would also recommend taking a course around something that you care about and might want to start a business around because owning a business is one of the best tax hacks that the world's wealthiest elite use to reduce their taxes. You also need to learn how the world's wealthiest elite leverage insurance assets to build and grow and sustain their wealth long term. And you can find more information about that in a book called What Would the Rockefellers Do by Garrett Gunderson. You need to learn how they earn interest tax-free and how they access it through strategies like infinite and family banking, which that you can learn more about right here on this channel. Remember, you don't need to be a millionaire to think like one. You just need the right information and the right guidance. Regardless where you're starting, you can make that shift. And the day that you choose to take back control of your money and stop following a broken system is the day that you unlock the key to real, true freedom. Make sure that you follow me if you don't want to miss another wealth building tip, and I'll catch you next week on YouTube.